Hi everyone, and welcome to Deep Geek Live. I am really delighted that I am back on air with the amazing, the wonderful, and the incredibly beautiful Azor Aype. Do you want to introduce yourself, Kyle?
Hey everyone, my name is Kyle. I live up here in the cold north of the lands of always winter, and I'm happy to join Robert here today. Some of you may have joined our stream earlier on my channel. We talked about Sandor Clegane. Now we're going to be discussing Qyburn. Very, very interesting character. So let's see where we go with this.
Absolutely. It's a delight to have you on. Yes, so for those who aren't watching live, then you probably won't be aware, but literally just a couple of hours ago, the two of us were over on Kyle's channel. We were having a good old a chat there on his live stream, and we decided to do a sort of a double header. So we were talking about Sandor Clegane, and this time we're going to be talking about Qyburn and a little bit about Gregor Clegane as well. So we get both sides of this story. For me, Qyburn is one of the most fascinating, probably one of the most misunderstood characters in all of Game of Thrones. We kind of instinctively think of him as being this kind of creepy, evil guy, but I think there are a lot more layers here that we don't really always get into. But we'll get to all of that in a moment. I can see there are loads of people already in the chat. I just want to say hello to all of you. We'll come to you in just a moment. Obviously, if you get any super chats, we'll come to them straight away. But first of all, Kyle, why don't you just sort of kick us off talking about Qyburn? Can you just give us an overall overarching? What is his overall character arc so far?
Yeah, so Qyburn has really emerged as this like dark and strange character. He's really mysterious, and for me, this really was huge in the sixth season of the show. Obviously, you know, there's stuff going on in the books as well, but for me, it was the sixth season of the show, and we know that he's experimented on corpses, and we also know he's been criticized by various characters that don't know the full nature of his experiments. So he was at the Citadel. He had problems there, and you know, he's always been curious about this other side, kind of this more mystical side that we see within the Song of Ice and Fire and a Game of Thrones. And to me, I think he's actually not evil like some people think he is. I think he's more of like a curious scientist type. He is quite odd, though. You know, some people say he is reminds them of Jack the Ripper, which is kind of oddly a great comparison. But you know, I think that he's just really curious about how things work. He's a survivor, obviously, and I kind of see him more in the mold of not like someone, not unlike someone like the Three-Eyed Raven kind of sees. You know, the grand overarching, more mystical, magical side of the Song of Ice and Fire and Life, and that's kind of, you know, something that we're getting more into as we get deeper into the books and the show. Obviously, you know, the political stuff has always been in the forefront. You know, obviously, the monarchy of King's Landing, that's been huge, right? And he's obviously tied to that, you know, with Cersei in the show, and I'm sure she's going to get the Iron Throne in the books as well. But he's kind of tied to that other side that's going to explode in that final third act of A Song of Ice and Fire and a Game of Thrones. He's got a really big part to play, and we're starting to learn more about whites and the undead and kind of the mystical nature. But I don't particularly think he's evil, Robert. I think he's more of a curious-natured person. But he is allied with Cersei, so the argument there is well, he's on Cersei's side as far as we know.
Absolutely, and I think I want to come on to the Cersei link in a moment, because I think that's also quite a misunderstood element to all of this. But we've just had a super chat from Christian Nola, $20. Thank you so much, saying I can't stay for this chat, but look forward to listening to it later. Have fun, guys. I really appreciate it.
Donation train has started, people. Let's get hype in the chat.
Right. Thank you so much for that. That's amazing. Can we just go back to the beginning of Qyburn, just so we're all on the same page? So Qyburn was a maester, and I think this is where Kyle, you were coming from, is that we have to view him in this kind of a way, is that he isn't just some sort of random evil person. He's a person who was brought up studying things, learning things, understanding things. That was where all his training was. And it was his curiosity to learn that got him kicked out of the Citadel. It was his curiosity to understand certain things, specifically, I think, about what lingers about life after death, that led him to do experiments not just on dead bodies, but on live human beings, because he wanted to understand the whole thing. So when he gets kicked out, he retains that scientific approach to life. So when we first meet him, he is sort of friendless. He is without a vocation, but he is still the same person. So Carl, what do you think then in terms of this scientific approach? What does this tell us about his character and what he may actually be wanting in life?
Well, I mean, we see, you know, most of the crux of the story of A Song of Ice and Fire. I brought up the monarchy, and right, we see people fighting over the Iron Throne, right? And then we have all of these other characters. You know, some people are just trying to survive, and then obviously we have people like Bran who are doing completely crazy things. You know, we're talking about a different level of consciousness and living, possibly even higher understanding of the universe. And I think Qyburn is just a slot below all of that. He's a survivor. He's like you said, he doesn't really have. He's kind of like a nomad maester. But I think that he genuinely just wants to find out these points, and that will help him survive in life. Now, the thing is, for me, is when he starts discovering some of these things, he becomes connected to these other plot points, which in turn brings him into the bigger story, which kind of complicates matters, right? Because, like I said, I don't necessarily think Qyburn's evil, but that doesn't mean he's going to get tied up in some nefarious stuff. Like doing what he did with Gregor Clegane, turning him into Robert Strong, that's not a good thing. I personally don't think so, even though I don't think he's evil. However, there's, like I said, there's still this other side of the equation. People can perceive that as evil, right? Because he is experimenting. He is pushing the limits of our human anatomy and understanding nature, the way nature works, right? Because that's what's really going down, you know, with the Children of the Forest and the Night King and all that kind of stuff. We see it as magic, but is it really science? So there's kind of that narrative going on, right? Qyburn is trying to question that. Is magic science? He's trying to figure out to close the gap between all of that. And I think that's his goal, to find out, to become enlightened in that way.
Exactly. And I think for me, this is the heart of understanding Qyburn. I don't think he's evil per se. I don't think he's going out trying to do bad things. I don't think he really thinks about the consequences of those things, the moral consequences of what he does so much. I think he is just trying to learn and understand things. And I think that what we've seen of that he's been doing in King's Landing, what he's been doing with the Mountain, is just a continuation of his studies that he got stopped doing when he was in the Citadel. So I think what we're actually seeing is, from his perspective, just a sort of a slightly interrupted study period. I don't think he's thinking so much about the grand politics of the world. I think he sees that in as much as he wants to be able to make sure that he can carry on his studies, rather than he's particularly wanting to help Cersei because Cersei, he thinks Cersei's great in some way. He thinks Cersei is providing him with what he needs, which we'll come on to Cersei in just a moment. But we just got another super chat. Craig Mulvey. Thank you so much. That's really kind. Was his offer to get Jaime a woman at Harrenhal out of character for him? Carl, I'll throw that one to you.
It's, I don't know. Does someone put him up to that? Does someone pay him?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I'll give my take on this, which is that one element of Qyburn's character is his ability to ingratiate himself with people. Now, Jamie actually sees through this quite a lot, but you have to say it is an astonishing rise for somebody who was left for dead at Harrenhal to within, we don't know exactly, but like a couple of years or so, to suddenly become a member of the small council and then ultimately Hand of the Queen. This is an astonishing rise to power for this person. And the way that he does that is by making himself useful. He does things when he gets to King's Landing. You see, he takes on jobs for Cersei. He offers to get her information, to do things for her. And I think that's him trying to do things for Jamie. So him cauterizing the wound with Jamie's where Jamie's hand was and all the rest of it, I think it's all part of this package, that this is him trying to ingratiate himself with other people because he wants to get to a position of security that will allow him to carry on his experiments.
There's two great comments in chat that I'm looking up at the in the live chat here. Maria Roja says he is more of a Victor Frankenstein than anything. That's kind of an interesting parallel, I think. And then Kathy Stark says Qyburn may be approaching life within this, the scientific realm, but his moral compass is way off true north. Yeah, I think those are kind of but George likes to create those great characters, right? So, like I said, he's kind of a little bit of both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, and I think that the Victor Frankenstein, Baron Frankenstein analogy is a really good one. I think that's a really strong one. I think if you go back and read the original novel, you find that he doesn't really think through the moral implications of what he's doing. He's creating a thing, but then he doesn't realize what that might mean in terms of I now have to have a relationship with this creation. So the parallels to Qyburn are really quite strong, because Qyburn doesn't think about what the moral implications are of what he's doing. He's just interested in the science. He wants to learn how things work. And I think actually, whereas we view the mountain as being like, oh, so he's created this thing, he probably just thinks of it as being, this is a prototype. I've now proven that I can do a thing, and then I can go and learn something else.
Or his frame of mind, George often talks about how the villain thinks they're the hero of the other side. In his mind, this might be morally correct. He might be thinking he's helping someone. So we don't know because we don't get any POVs from Qyburn. We obviously need more information on him. But from this perspective, he could think what he's doing is like this morally correct positive thing. You know what I mean? Because of his frame of mind, because he's been so ingrained in this kind of these kinds of interests for so long.
Absolutely, and the phrase that George R.R. Martin likes, I don't think he came up with it, but everyone is a hero in their own story, which is true. We do not. That there are very few people who wake up and think, I'm going to do evil today. Everybody thinks that they're fundamentally a good person or in the right in some way. For me, I think that Qyburn thinks he's in the right because he is learning and discovering things, and he thinks that is fun. Like the rest of the Maesters, they think that is the most important thing, is to further humanity's understanding of the world. And I think that is why he thinks that he's on the right course, and he can justify doing things because he thinks that is a worthwhile goal to be heading towards.
And a lot of people talk about George R.R. Martin's writings, especially within the Song of Ice and Fire, Robert, the conflict with your own human heart. We see Jon Snow have this. We see Theon Greyjoy go through these moments. Obviously betraying Robb Stark. There's all these specific moments within these characters' story arcs that really change their trajectory in their story wherever they may be going. And I think for Qyburn, it's like, what kind of conflict is he going with? What kind of conflict is going on within him and his heart? And it's like, what does he really care about? What does he really love? And we don't got a clear answer on that. And that's why he's such an interesting character, right? Because he's one of those characters where we don't really know his motivations. Right. So, You can say that more clearly about other characters, where it's like, okay, well, you can kind of see where Jon's conflict is or where Arya's conflict is. It's like Qyburn doesn't really. He's just doing stuff, you know.
And I think part of the reason actually is because of the lack of background we have for him. So most of the characters we know where they're born, how they are brought up, what family they come from, what house or faction they support. Qyburn, it's a complete blank, because when somebody becomes a maester, they give up their old house, their old allegiances. So we don't have that information. And then he gets chucked out from the maesters, from the citadel, so he's not got that affiliation either. So he is just his own person, and it's because we don't know all of his background, we don't have these kind of like hooks that we do with other characters to be able to say, oh, well, that person clearly is going to be in favor of Targaryen succession, or this person's clearly going to be supportive of the Lannisters. We do not know his background. He appears to be Westerosi, he appears to be reasonably well spoken, so he doesn't seem to be he seems to have come from like a good family of some kind, but that's about it. And I think that leaves us feeling slightly unnerved, because we simply have no idea where he's coming from initially. And the only thing that we do know is there are a couple of maesters that were mentioned, and perhaps Carl, you can kind of pick up on the implications of both of these, because he talks about studying under Maester Ebros, who was the great
healer type, who's kind of like the opposite of Qyburn, right?
Absolutely. And he also talks about the only maester who seems supportive of him being Archmaester Marwyn. So do you want to just pick up on what the implications of that might be?
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, we in season 7, initially people thought that the maester that was going to be helping Samwell was Archmaester Ebros, and he actually kind of took on a little bit of his persona. But you know, Archmaester Marwyn is another one of those characters where it's like, okay, he's got the glass candle, he's going to Daenerys Targaryen, he's doing all of these odd things, and is there this grand maester conspiracy? And this is quite different than the show. The maesters were really, Old Town and all that, they really went through that quickly. So we're probably not going to get too much more on that. We might get some glimpses of that, but I think for the books, there's way more to be explored with that particular storyline. But going back to what you said, Robert, I think that because Marwyn is interested in the same kind of things he is too, does Marwyn know about the others? Does Marwyn know that, the Night King can create whites? We know there's hidden information at the Citadel. He is an Archmaester. We got to assume that he might. It's not implied that he does, but he definitely knows about the dragons, and he knows how powerful those are. So he knows that magic is back in the world again. So, but the stuff that Qyburn was doing was kind of like, I don't want to say necrophilia. He wasn't like, banging dead people or anything like that. But it's kind of in that same realm. Like, it's considered unwell to be doing that. Oh, Robert, if you die and if I'm a normal human, I'm going to call 911, right? I'm not going to experiment with you in my house in my bathtub or something. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that'll ever happen if you come to Canada. But
I've heard about you Canadians.
And despite, and here's the thing too, publicly, if this kind of thing got out, like that Qyburn was doing this kind of stuff within the realm of the maesters, they might have had to usher them out, even though some of them might have agreed with what he was doing for science, right? Because of how publicly this kind of thing is viewed, right? And like I said, the maesters are kind of hiding information, so we don't really know the intentions of some of them, like Marwyn.
Absolutely. I've had another super chat, Sean McPherson, one of my most recent patrons. Thank you so much. $10. That's really kind. Just want to pick up on the Marwyn thing, because I think this plays into, and sorry for anyone who's just a show-only person. Archmaester Marwyn he's a sort of a renegade Archmaester. He's still in the Citadel in terms of like he's part of the establishment, but he's the only one who's in favor of magic effectively. He's the one, he studies it, he loves it, he goes researching about magic across not just Westeros but across Essos, and we hear him in connection with going very far east, and he also with people like Miri Mazdur, incidentally. But the most interesting thing in terms of the books is that where we left off in the books is he is going to find Daenerys. So he is heading off in the books. Daenerys is still over in Essos. So he is going over to find her and become her maester. That's his intention. Now that actually, when you think about it, is going to place him in an opposite corner to who we're talking about today, which is Qyburn. So we'll have Qyburn there being Hand of the Queen to Cersei in King's Landing, and Marwyn, his old friend, is going to be potentially part of the small council of Daenerys, who is coming over to invade. And that is it's a subplot that we didn't get on the show, but I think it'll be fascinating to see that play out in the books, to see what actually happens, whether they will be in contact with one another.
Well, I think Varys got some of what Marwyn is going to get in the books, because Varys is more aligned with Illyrio and Phagon in that particular storyline. We don't have that in the show. And, I think a majority of you that are in the chat and may or may not think that, Aegon is a Blackfire, or Illyrio's son with Sarah, Varys' sister, one of the female, from the female line of the Blackfires. But, interestingly enough, Robert, yeah, I'm in agreement with you there, and that would be really interesting. But that's kind of where I see Qyburn in the books. I mean, like we didn't really get we don't have the next book yet, but I think that he will, if it plays out similarly, and Daenerys does go to Westeros, which has to happen, Marwyn can kind of get like that Varys advisor role,
Absolutely, I would agree completely there. Can we talk about Cersei and Qyburn now? Because for me, this is the key relationship. Everything about Qyburn's power is tied up with Cersei. He has brought himself in, he's made himself useful to Cersei, and this is what allows him to carry on his study. Now, clearly, we see on the show he's been doing a lot of stuff that's to help Cersei. He created the Mountain, who's now effectively being her bodyguard. He created the Scorpion, the massive crossbow, which can shoot at dragons. He's been doing huge amounts of things, setting the groundwork for blowing up the Great Sept, for example. So how do you see this relationship, Carl, between the two of them? How strong do you think it actually is?
Between Cersei and Qyburn?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I wanted to actually mention this earlier, and then we got into our Marwyn stuff. Cersei took Qyburn in, right? After all of these other people didn't believe in Qyburn and what he was doing. So, and I spoke about earlier about how I don't think Qyburn is necessarily evil. I think that, he's got that curious nature. He's a scientist. So, once you find an answer, you want to find out more answers. That's usually how it works. I don't, like I said, I don't think that, I just think he's happy to continue to be doing what he's doing. And if that means he has to align himself with Cersei and do some other stuff, then that's cool. So for him, since he's able to do, since he has all of these resources now, like Cersei's the queen, he can get whatever he wants, right? As far as resources go. Like, and then in the show, he's making scorpions and ballistas. They're going to be used against Jon and Daenerys, or maybe against the Night King even. But I think it's such a weird relationship, Robert, because I don't necessarily think he's really loyal to her. I think he's loyal to his work, so he will do things to have those resources. That's the way I see it. So I think when push comes to shove, if she goes crazy, I don't know if he'll be there. Because I think she's going to go full Mad Queen level, like Aerys, shut off the gates to King's Landing. They're going to have to usher themselves in, possibly through where Arya viewed Illyrio and Varys having the conversation near the dragon skulls, and where was it Sir Pounce was hanging around down there? Azor Aype, Sir Pounce, everyone. But I think that kind of scenario goes down. So I don't think it's I don't, yeah, I mean, but he did crown her Queen of Westeros, so it'd be really interesting to see if he has that same kind of arc in the books as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite a sort of symbiotic relationship. They're both getting what they need from each other. Now, I think Cersei, however, is slightly more misguided about Qyburn than Qyburn is about Cersei. I think that Qyburn is using her. I think that he thinks in order to do what I want to do, which is all of these experiments, which is to get access to all of these resources that I need. I need to be close to Cersei. I need to keep her happy. I need to provide the things that she wants. And so I think he sees himself as using her, but I think Cersei looks at him and thinks that he is loyal because he was the person who stuck by her when she went off and had the walk of shame. If you remember, he was the one who welcomed her back in afterwards, and I think that she sees him as being loyal in a way that actually he isn't. So I think this is and we'll get on to predictions in the second half of this live stream, but this is, I think, something we have to keep an eye out for. Is he is not a Lannister loyalist. He is in it for himself, and he is using Cersei.
I see him very much in the vein of a Littlefinger character, in the way, you know, what we saw with Sansa and Littlefinger. Littlefinger wasn't loyal to the Starks in the end. Yeah, he says he loves Sansa and Catelyn. He really didn't. He was using them to advance himself. I kind of see Qyburn in the same light.
Yeah, I mean, I think Littlefinger, love was the wrong word for what he felt for Sansa, but there was a degree of obsession there. I think that there was a thing that he was wanting. He says delicately. We've had a couple of super chats, which is fantastic. Catherine Bassett saying, from myself and Laura D. I think this is Laura asked the question and then Catherine's put in a super chat, which I love when people do that, because it's somebody spotting something else that somebody has said and then and bringing it to our attention, which is fantastic. So the question is that Qyburn was saved by the Starks. Is he in cahoots with Varys? I think personally no, for the reasons that I've set out. I think that he's just in this for himself. I think yes, he might technically on the show you saw that it was Robb Stark that was there when he was being rescued, but I don't think that means that he's loyal to them. If you look all the way through, and actually I did a video on Qyburn 2 or 3 months ago. If you look at his loyalties all the way through, his story is a story of changed loyalties. He presumably was brought up in a house and then abandoned that to go to the Citadel, and then he was kicked out of the Citadel, and he then gained a new loyalty to the Brave Companions, this kind of mercenary group, which aren't on the show but are in the books. Then there comes, as was on the show, the Starks, and then there are the Lannisters. And so it's like he's changing his loyalty according to what he can get out of it. So I don't think he's loyal to anyone who saved him. I think he's loyal to himself and to what he wants. What are your thoughts on that one, though, Carl?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to say with Littlefinger. Littlefinger would use each situation to his advantage, or he'd try to get the most out of each situation. Qyburn's trying to do the same thing so he can do his scientific work, right? It's not the same motivation as Littlefinger, but it's the same kind of tactic, right? I mean, manipulation, and yeah, ultimately he's getting what he wants, so it's working, more or less. So I'm really interested to see where it goes forward, especially in the show, because I mean, he had a very, very large interest in the member of the undead, the arm that they brought, or he's at least examining it after Sandor smashes the crap out of it. So that's something that's really interesting to me, because there's going to be some big twists, I think, and I think he could be one of those people where it's like, whoa, he's way more powerful or way less powerful than we thought, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And another super chat from another one of my patrons, Klaus Richter. Is this the first time you come onto a live stream? I'm not. I can't remember seeing you before. But Klaus, thank you so much. That's incredibly generous. €10, and is saying Qyburn and Cersei keep claiming that Gregor has become even stronger. What does that mean? Physically stronger, harder to kill, or something completely different? I'll throw to you in a moment, Carl. I mean, I think as a base, yes, I think they mean physically stronger and physically harder to kill because he's already sort of undead. But I think he is something different as well. What's your take on this one?
Well, I mean, if he's undead and he doesn't feel the same way humans do, like impervious to pain, and me and you were having a fight, Robert. And we were duking it out.
Happen, Carl.
It would never happen. But I'm just using this as an example. You punch me in the face 5 times and I punch you 5 times. You're going to feel that mentally and physically, right? Because it hurts you and your brain is receiving this, and your parts of your body, wherever you're getting hit, are feeling this pain, this physical pain. And I think the idea is stronger. I don't know if he's necessarily stronger, but I mean, you whack him with the sword, he's probably not going to die because he's dead. You know what I mean? It's like, so burn it with fire is the term they would often use in alien movies and stuff like that. So yeah, in the sense he's stronger. I don't necessarily know if he's stronger, but I mean, he's harder to stop. I mean, like, how do you kill him? How do you kill a thing that's already dead? He's a Frankenstein, right? Like, I mean, that's the closest that we can kind of.
Yeah,
he's a white, like a white-ish.
A whitish, sort of muddy grey.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree, and I think I said this actually on the chat we were having over on your channel just a couple of hours ago. I think that as a category, I would count him as a sort of a science white. He is a white. He is an undead. He is somebody who has been brought back, and that has been achieved through science, through the application of science rather than the application of magic. Now, this all comes, and I think this is really good because we were wanting to get onto the subject of the mountain because we were looking earlier at Sandor Clegane, so it's quite good to get onto Gregor Clegane. I'm just going to quickly read out, if I can find it, a quote that I think captures where Qyburn has been coming from in terms of his study of what the life after death is. And this is from when Jamie asks him if he believes in ghosts, and he doesn't reply to that question directly. He actually says this. He says, "Once at the Citadel, I came into an empty room and saw an empty chair. Yet I knew a woman had been there only a moment before. The cushion was dented where she'd sat, the cloth was still warm, and her scent lingered in the air. If we leave our smells behind us when we leave a room, surely something of our souls must remain when we leave this life." And for me, that's the heart of what he's been studying, is that what lingers of life after you die. And so what he's done is he's captured within the zombie mountain whatever lingers of life after you die, and that is what has become the white. And we've seen this across the piece in other whites, with like the fire whites, is with Beric Dondarrion. Something lingered of him, and each time he got resurrected, a little bit less of him was there.
Lady Stoneheart as well, yeah,
exactly. Lady Stoneheart is that something lingered of her, but not everything of who she was. And so I think what Qyburn has done is he's taken one of these, which is a law, it would appear, a scientific law of Planetos, of the world that we've got there, and then he's tried to exploit that to try and make to capture this whatever it is that lingers, and then allow the body to continue being animated.
Yeah, essentially. I think that, as far as research goes, I don't want to go too deep, but isn't it true that all matter, there's still residue of matter even after we're gone? Stars, after they, I mean, obviously, they can reduce to smaller stars and neutron stars and stuff like that, but everything that goes, there's still residue parts of it. Even plant life gives life to other plants, which is interesting. So Qyburn is kind of trying to see if he can, and that's why I actually think that he's going to have a bigger impact in the end that we think, because we are getting into we got 6 episodes left. They're going to be bigger ones. There's going to be some of this stuff that's going to be explored, but who knows what Qyburn could have to do with the Night King, or even with the magic of R'hllor and kind of the fire side, the life side. It's going to be really interesting to see kind of where he sits between those two sides, because I think that we're going to see resurrections on both ends, and I want to see if he is kind of in the middle of that. He's kind of like this new thing,
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to get onto that because I'm sure we've got a really good discussion about what the future is, and I think the future is going to be, for Qyburn at least, is going to be more versions of the mountain, because he's proven the concept now. And you saw when he was like holding up the White's hand when they brought it down and there in the dragon pit, and he was looking at it going, what's this? More information, something else for me to study. So I think I want to get onto that in just a moment. Just on the mountain, and Cherie McLean, I saw your super chat. Thank you so much. We'll get to that just one moment. I just want to finish this thought about the mountain, because we were looking at, I hate the phrase, but Cleganebowl, when we were talking about Sandor, because this is the natural end of his character arc, is to face up against the mountain. What, given this understanding that we have now of the mountain, of being like, there's a little bit of him that lingers, but he's basically a reanimated bits of corpse. What does that tell us about what this final confrontation might be, Kyle? What do you reckon?
There's going to be, I think that while some stuff isn't permanent right now, but obviously the Night King is doing necromantic things. He's raising the dead, essentially, with this hive mind type of behavior going on within them. And then we have R'hllor, which is very similar. Then we have the drowned god stuff. You can kind of, that one is resuscitation in my mind, but there's obviously still like people being drowned. And Qyburn, he might be able to bring back, make some mindless drugs for Cersei or something like that. But I think there's going to be more permanent death at the end of all of it. I think that this science magic thing that's going on, it's going to be returned to base level, if you guys know what I mean. It's going to be kind of reduced. There won't be there won't be any lingering, in my opinion. So I think that it will be explored, but I don't know. It is quite possible that Qyburn may be the exception to that rule, though, in the end. That would be an interesting twist. He finds some way to exploit that in the end. And that's it's left ambiguously.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. It's one of the things that one of the conclusions we came to when we were talking about Sandor, and incidentally, that the video of that live stream that we keep on referring back to, that is over on Carl's channel, Azor Aype, if you want to go and check it out after this.
On my channel, go check it out.
Absolutely. It's Azor Aype. Do go and have a look at it. There's many, many good things as well as that, so do go and have a look. So one of the things that we agreed there was the fact that this thing that we've hyped up as Cleganebowl may actually turn out not to be just this massive fight between two really big heavy warriors, but from Sandor's perspective, this might be him taking pity on his brother, seeing that actually this isn't really, there's not much of him left, and actually bringing about that final death that you, Kyle, were talking about. So I think that this is the sort of the other side of the equation. We always think about it just as this is going to be the Hound coming back in and getting his revenge. But I think when he gets there, he will realize that actually it's not about revenge. It's about him getting his own satisfaction at the end of of his journey, and I think that the mountain is not going to survive. I think that he will die.
Someone brought this up. Someone brought this up in the chat, by the way. As far as like evil characters go, Gregor Clegane is like pure evil. Like, I mean, you can't really name a good thing that he's done, right? And that's an interesting point, you know. So, and that's part of the reason why Sandor is so influenced to act the way he does, being the knightly, honorly type.
Absolutely, but I think that the thing is that he will probably come to the realization that that is no longer Gregor Clegane. That is Robert Strong. That is a resurrected or resuscitated version of his brother's body, not actually that character. He is doing Qyburn's will rather than doing his own thing.
He's not truly expressing himself. He's not even able to speak. I mean, it's kind of the same thing we see with the knight leaving symbols. Robert Strong isn't doing any of that. He's just he's not expressing himself.
Absolutely, and we've got a few super chats to catch up on, so let's have a look at them. So Cherie McLean £10, thank you so much. Is it a coincidence Qyburn was the only one to survive the slaughter by the mountain and co? If not, why would Qyburn bring back the man who tried to kill him and the most dangerous man alive? I think if it's okay, I'm going to take that and answer that one at the same time as the one from Catherine Bassett. Thank you so much. Which is picking up a question from Pablo Alvestagui. Apologies for butchering your name there. Who says, is the mountain protecting Cersei or Qyburn? I think the answer to that is Qyburn, or Qyburn is in control, but he has told the mountain that he should be protecting Cersei. So that is how I think that relationship is working, which has implications in the end game. If Qyburn does decide he wants to try and switch sides again, he would take the mountain with him rather than the mountain being loyal to Cersei as he probably thinks. And that, I personally think, that answers Cherie's question about why he would bring him back, because he thinks he can control him. He thinks that this isn't the mountain that was there that could nearly killed him, that was doing all these terrible things. He sees a cadaver, a dead body, a dying person who he can use and he can control. So that
vessel.
Exactly. Did you have any extra thoughts on that one, Carl?
No, you killed that one, man. Like, pretty much you nailed it. Yeah.
Well, in that case, you can answer Kathy Stark's question. Thank you so much for the super chat. Whose head was sent to Dawn? This is a book thing, really, rather than a show thing.
Not not Gregor Clegane's.
Okay, whose head is on Franken Mountain?
We don't know. Some people want to say Robert Baratheon. That's just absolutely ridiculous. Some people think it's a dwarf, like Tyrion. If we go back to when they were searching for Tyrion, remember when they find the coins and stuff like that? So some people think it's a dwarf. I don't know. I don't have the answer for you. I don't know. Are we ever gonna? I think it'll be revealed. I think his helmet's gonna be knocked off at some point, and then he'll be revealed to be this like abomination. It's actually not his head. It'll be like someone else's head. If that's what you're asking, that's as far as I can go with it. I don't know who. I'm not gonna say like this person is his head, but I don't know.
Yeah. So for show only people in the books, they send the head of Gregor Clegane down to Dawn to show that he did die, but or at least the skull. But then when Robert Strong, the zombie mountain, appears, obviously has got a head. So the question is, whose head is it? Now, as Carl said, there are so many things we don't know about this. Did they? Was that actually the mountain's head that they sent down? We don't know that for sure. It was quite a big skull, apparently. So yeah, maybe it was. If it was, then whose head is it there on? You'd think that it would be quite a large head in order for it not to be disproportionate. I think we don't know is the only honest answer we can give to this one. There are lots of
for
theories.
show-only purposes, I mean, the actors, I mean, he can take off his helmet. They're not going to like do a bunch of CGI to put a different head on there. It does I mean, it's the same I mean, for the show, someone's mentioned that in the chat. It just makes more sense. I mean, it's practical, right?
Absolutely.
We're talking books here in case anyone is wondering and confused.
Yeah, on the show, I think that was a plot point that just didn't happen. So let's not worry about that.
I mean, and it means more too, because if his helmet does get knocked off, Sandor will see it's like, okay, this is my like dead brother, you know, and that means more.
Yeah, and it sort of underlines the Frankenstein's monster idea, if this is just a jumble of other bits of bodies brought together, because Frankenstein's monster wasn't just a human body resurrected, it was like lots of them joined together. So that would sort of carry on with that image. I'm going to take a very quick pause now just to say a couple of things to my patrons and subscribers, let people know what's coming up on the channel. 3 things I want to talk about. First of all, Westworld. If you're as excited as me about Westworld, then please do check out my Westworld content. I'm live streaming as a pre-show every Sunday, a little bit before the next episode of Westworld airs at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Every Sunday, I'm doing a live stream pre-show, looking back at the previous episode and making some predictions about what's coming up. And also, within 24 hours of the episode airing, I will be uploading my episode breakdown and explained video. So that's Westworld. Secondly, patrons. I say this every single time. I cannot do this without you. Your support is what does keep me going. So I want to say a huge thank you to you. Please keep an eye out at some point in the next week. The latest of my narrations from the Winds of Winter chapters, the pre-released chapters, will be uploaded. So this one's going to be Ariane. One of the characters is a book-only character, but I think this is a fascinating one, opening up a whole area that the show hasn't really got into, which is the whole Dornish plot. The show didn't do Dawn very well, but the books, that is a whole.
They should have done Ariane in the show. It would have been way better.
I agree completely, and she's a fascinating character. So please do keep an eye out for that at some point in the next week. And also, I'm going to tease now, a big announcement is coming about a new project, something new I'm going to be doing, which I'm going to announce at some point, probably in about 2 weeks' time, a new channel, a new project that I'm going to be getting involved with. So please do keep an eye out for that, but I'm just going to tease you with that for now. But Kyle, what's going on with you? What should people be looking out for?
Well, I'm leaving for Dallas for Con of Thrones in 12 days. Really excited about that. I'm going to bring this into the picture for a second. This is my tripodric here, and this is what we call the Pod's Eye. My camera, the Pod's Eye and tripodric are coming with me to Con of Thrones. We're going to be filming that. I'm going to be interviewing Joe Dempsey, Gendry Baratheon. I'm going to be interviewing Sibel Kelly, who plays Shay, Hannah Murray, who plays Gilly. I'm speaking on 4 panels. Me and Gemma from Secrets of the Citadel and our friend George have 3 panels, and then we have one with Lucifer Means Lightbringer. So that's really exciting. And but tomorrow I have a live stream on my channel. We're going to be doing part 3 in Ragnarok in Westeros. For those of you who like Norse mythology, me and Gemma have been discussing our theory and how we believe that Ragnarok is happening within Westeros. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about the world tree Yggdrasil and the weirwood trees, the comparison there, and then Daenerys Targaryen and the beast Jormungand, which is the serpent that encircles the world, the idea of the hero's journey and the circular journey that our characters are going on within the Song of Ice and Fire. So that's what's going on next. And then, yeah, just getting in preparation for Con of Thrones, filming down there. Really excited for that.
Fantastic. So guys, I see a few people calling me a tease. I am a tease. I do apologize. So my new project coming up is something that a lot of people have been asking me to do. So it's something that I think that a lot of people will be interested in seeing. So keep an eye out. At some point in the next couple of weeks, there will be a big announcement about that. But getting back to Qyburn, should we start looking forward to a few predictions? Carl, just at a high level, what do you think the future season 8? What do you think that holds for Qyburn?
He's going to make it at least until like the 5th or 6th episode of the season. We know that there's only 6 episodes left in Game of Thrones season 8. I think that there's going to be a significant role for him to play, actually, because we know that the entourage around Cersei is a lot smaller, and he's that main person with her, right? I mean, who else does she really have? She has Tycho and Destoris from the Iron Bank. Can he be trusted, really? So Qyburn's the closest person to Cersei, and King's Landing is still a thing, right? So we know that the northern plot line is going to be important, but I think that the final battle eventually gets to King's Landing, and those ballistas, it didn't work last year, and I think that we're going to see a more problematic version of them this time. I think that it's possible that maybe Drogon even gets hurt somehow. I think Qyburn's going to build some more of these. Cersei's going to become more and more paranoid, like the Mad King was. I think she's going to shut off the gates to King's Landing, and I think, you know, it'll be a kind of like Aerys. You know, someone was helping him along with his madness. You know, we could argue that Varys was helping him become more and more mad. I think that Qyburn's going to help Cersei along a little bit with her paranoia and all that. So. There's no one really. She's got all the. I mean, she doesn't have any. She has yes men. You know, she doesn't really have anybody saying what she's doing is wrong. So I think Qyburn's going to be a big part of what. And I think perhaps we might even see him dabble in some of the dark, the really dark stuff. Perhaps creating even more mountains.
Yeah, I think that for me, that's one of the things that I think is almost certain. I think that the mountain was not the end for Qyburn. I think that he's not the kind of person who's going to stop experimenting, stop learning. I think that he's going to see that as a proof that he can do it. Proof of concept, if you like, that was the phrase I was looking for, that he can do this. And once he has shown that he can do this, I think actually we could be looking at almost a production line. He's going to be quite scientific about this. Can he create another army of the dead that is actually on Cersei's side? And I think that this is actually, it opens up huge possibilities that we're not... we're often brought, particularly on the show, we're led to believe this is a matter about the army of the dead attacking from the north, and then humanity, the living, confronting it. But that's not the case. If you look all the way across the piece, it was almost laughable, I think, when you had the conversation between Beric and John was saying, yes, but we all still breathe, we're the living, we're going to go off and fight the dead. And it's like, no, you're not. He's a Firewhite and you've also been brought back from the dead. And it's just like, suddenly we're getting pockets of the dead appearing all over the place, the people who've survived. And so I think what we're going to see is that another pocket of the dead is going to appear in King's Landing under Qyburn's control. So what do you? I can see you're laughing.
Yeah,
at
well,
that.
I mean, there's particular. I mean, we got just to run off a list here. We got the magic of the old gods. We got the White Walkers and the others, the Night King. Then we got R'hllor and Melisandre and all that. Then we have what Qyburn is doing too. Then we have the maester, kind of what the maesters are doing, and then we got the Three-Eyed Raven doing his own thing. You know, Bran. So it's like there's all these different, and I'm waving my fingers around as an effect. It makes it more magical, everyone. But I think that Qyburn is certainly exploring that other area, that other small area of magic science that hasn't been explored, right? Oh, here's the thing, though. I think it's going to create a problem if he makes a bigger army. Night King will be like, yeah, I'll snatch those. And then they'll be in a scenario where Cersei thinks she's being protected and she's not. And I think that in that moment, other people could be there. I don't know. That seems kind of convenient. But I think if Qyburn does that, I actually think the Night King is getting to King's Landing all the way there. I think he's going to be in the throne room. Okay. because he's going to look at that thing. I think something crazy is going down though. If Qyburn does try to reanimate people, I think it's going to be a problem. Either way.
I mean, it's definitely going to be a problem. I mean, I certainly hope that on the show, I'm pretty convinced in the books that the Night King is not heading for King's Landing. He might get there, but he doesn't care two hoots about the Iron Throne. That's not a thing that he cares about. So I think that certainly in the books, there's Winterfell, and then there's the Isle of Faces that I think are where he actually is wanting to be getting to. But yeah, I think that we're going to get Qyburn having created an extra little mini army down there. I think that he's going to have created these scorpions, as you were talking about. I think that there's been enough hints that these are dragon killers that we will see them. The dragons, and this we. At the risk of going into a completely different discussion, the dragons are not going to survive, in my opinion. I can't see any way in which the dragons are going to live beyond this. And I think that probably at least one of them is going to be taken down by one of those scorpions, because that's a way that we know that they can be shot. And we've seen it happen again and again. So,
Robert, let me ask you something. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Me and Gemma, obviously we do the Citadel of Hype podcast, and we've discussed talking about this sign. We haven't done a science magic episode yet. We don't know what we're talking about next week on the podcast, but I'll do this. I would like to extend an invite to Robert and Deep Geek to come on the Citadel of Hype podcast to discuss the deeper mysteries and magic of the Song of Ice and Fire in a Game of Thrones. You would be our second guest ever after Lord Lucifer means Lightbringer.
Well,
everybody, but we need everybody in the chat to get hype about it to convince Robert. How about that?
I would be honored, and Lucifer means Lightbringer is clearly a legend in the field. So to be the second guest after him would be an honor. We'll have to work out timings, Kyle. Thank you for putting me on the spot, but I would love to come on. That would be great, and tell you all about why the dragons are going to die. And then obviously
I'm in agreement there, man. So
excellent. And now everybody in the chat, thanks everyone. So trying to put me down on a little bit of
I put you in a hard spot. You can't really say no now.
I can't say no when everyone's telling me to. Shaking my fist at you now. No, I'm joking. It would be an absolute honor. Okay, so do you think, he says, trying desperately to wrest this back onto what he wants to talk about, do you think that Qyburn is going to betray Cersei?
I don't. Is just walking away from the whole situation betray? Is that considered betrayal?
That's what he's going to do.
Because I don't think he's really loyal to her right now, anyways. So how can, I mean, you know what I mean? But Cersei, I guess Cersei could perceive that he is, because she's honoring whatever he's able to express himself and practice his science, right? So I'm gonna say that Cersei is not going to be with Cersei in the end. Cersei is going to be all alone, and she's going to be. No, actually, she won't be all alone. She'll be with Jaime, and then she will die. That's the way I see it. So yes, if that's considered being betrayed, then I will have to say yes.
Yeah, I love it when we agree. I think that she is going to end up lonely. I think that is the thing, and I think that the confrontation between her and Jaime is going to be how her story will end. Now, one thing I keep on coming back to about this idea of the ending being bittersweet, that at least one character that we don't like is going to have to survive. Because it's not going to be the kind of story where all of the good guys survive and all of the bad guys die. That's not how this is going to be. Looking at it, out of all of the people we might consider to be sort of the bad guys in some way, I think Qyburn is probably the most likely to survive. I think Cersei's going to die. I think Euron can't survive because he's just too much of a...
He's 1,000% dead. I would bet my little life on that.
Yeah, he can't. If he survives, he's creating too much havoc everywhere, so he's got to die. I think the person who is most likely And I don't think the Night King, I mean, he might survive, as it were, but I think he's going to sort of be pushed back in some way. But out of the characters that we know, the one most likely to survive, to slink off somewhere to carry on his studies, is Qyburn. So
I got a tinfoil theory on this one. I actually think him and Davos are going to face off. They're both not great.
Why Davos?
Because he's gonna figure out something. He's pretty good at figuring stuff out, Davos, right? Even though he's not a learned man. Because he's gonna be right with Jon, right? And they're gonna get into King's Landing. And I think he could be a person that figures out what Qyburn is doing. And he didn't like what Melisandre was doing. Because and Davos can kind of be like this like righteous but not religious character that kind of roots out all of this not good stuff that's going on. I know it's tinfoil, but I mean, Qyburn is handed the queen, and I think Davos is going to be handed the king to Jon, because I think Daenerys will be dead before the final battle. So I think Qyburn versus Davos is going to happen.
Yeah, two of the people who are probably least good in fighting. That will be quite a sight to behold. I'm not 100% sure on it, but I like the thinking. I personally still prefer the idea that he will just escape and he will just head off somewhere. We've had a super chat from Karen Sugar Mama of Hype, who I saw over on your
I refer to her as the Iron Bank of Hype because of this exact thing. She's so ridiculously generous. By the way, Karen, you told me not to do something nice for you for Con of Thrones, but too late.
Wow. Something nice from Kyle. That's an offer you don't get all the time. But Karen, thank you.
Comment.
Sorry, mate.
I do nice things all the time.
I'm winding you up. Sorry. And for
Fake
the record,
news.
For the record, Kyle is, in my view, the nicest and most generous YouTuber out there within this community of Game of Thrones. He's I only heard abuse at him because I hold him in such high regard. He's the person who got me into live streaming. He's the person who's encouraged me every step of the way. So I say it a lot, but Carl means a lot to me. But anyway, getting back to Karen, who is going to get this wonderful gift from Kyle, the wonderful person. Will Queen paranoid Cersei believe that Qyburn has betrayed her and betray him instead? So if we're thinking that Qyburn might betray her, is Cersei, because she is paranoid, going to betray him first? What do you reckon, Carl?
It's certainly possible. I mean, the Mad King, who did he have with him at the end? Just the pyromancer?
And Jaime.
And Jaime, right? So Cersei is in a similar situation. We can kind of think of Qyburn as the pyromancer, but doing undead shit. There still might be wildfire. Remember, Qyburn was instrumental. Someone brought this up earlier in the chat. I can't remember who. Qyburn could be instrumental in getting more of that. That might be a thing. So this is I don't really want to answer this question, but I'm gonna say no. Cersei's not. I think Qyburn will survive Cersei. I think Qyburn's a pretty smart guy, and I think he knows what's going on with Cersei. I think he's manipulating her. So I don't think he'll get. I don't think he's gonna get fooled by Cersei.
Yeah, I think I agree with that one. I think Cersei is not as clever as she thinks she is. Yes, she will get paranoid. Yes, in the absence of people that she actually trusts. And the people she actually trusted, frankly, were not many. Jaime she trusted, and Jaime's gone. I think she now pretty much only trusts herself. But in the books, it's very apparent that she does think that Qyburn is loyal. And I think this means that we are going to get to the point where he will betray her. I think that the mountain will be hanging around right until the very end, and I think that Qyburn will see the writings on the wall and he will just escape, because he, like Varys, is now in possession of a knowledge of how to get out of the Red Keep. He can escape out through the tunnels, and no one will be able to find him. So I think
it comes down to Qyburn saving his own tail to continue what he's doing. Qyburn will pick Qyburn. And yeah, I think most of us in that situation, I would pick Kyle in that situation. I mean, I would want to survive if Cersei's going to kill me, right? I mean, no one wants to die. So I think that Qyburn will. I mean, he'll see. I mean, Cersei's going to go batshit crazy, people. Like, I don't think you understand. She's going to be the mad queen. We're really going to see it. We're really going to see her spiral into madness.
I agree. We will, and I think Euron is not going to help. His own madness will add to hers, and I think it's going to be quite toxic. And I think actually that could well be one of the things that could push Qyburn over the edge, because what he wants is a stable environment where he is allowed to do what he wants to do. And I don't think that having Euron around creates a stable environment in any way. So
Lena Headey is going to crush it, by the way. She's gonna win Best Actress if they do. She's gonna win the Best Actress if she does get to play Mad Queen Cersei. I'm gonna call it right now.
That's fair call. I wouldn't disagree. I think she's a very good actress, and I think she's done an excellent job without having those kind of standout scenes so much. She's done a lot of sort of like staring moodily out of windows and things like that, but not
donation
really.
Train, Robert. It continues.
Oh. It has actually. Well, yes. So, Kathy Stark, thank you so much. With a question, super chat, thank you, and a question saying, if Qyburn dies, will Franken-Mountain die? Because is this a hive mind or essence thing? This, I think, is a sort of a reference across to the thoughts that they were having north of the Wall about if you kill the White Walker, then all the whites that are under the control of that White Walker, they also collapse and die. Is that, Kyle, what you think is happening here?
No, I don't think so. I think the Mountain's going to die before Qyburn anyways. He's going to die in the Cleganebowl, man. I think it's going to take multiple people to take on the Mountain anyways. But I don't think that's what's going on. I think the Night King, think of it this way. The Night King is not living nor dead. He's essentially in a state of purgatory because he has this element. He has this element in his chest that keeps him from being able to speak and truly living. However, he's able to interact with those that are not living. So the remains of the dead and stuff like that. So he's a necromancer, and I don't think Qyburn. He's practicing necromantic magic, but it's not the same thing because it's more science than magic. The Night King is actually magic, I think, if that makes sense to all of you. So I think that Robert Strong, Gregor Clegane, he's reanimated. He's he's a vessel, and Qyburn can give him commands, but he can't control him with his mind. He can give him commands and stuff, but he's not like connected to him physically.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that there's a difference between the ice whites that we see north of the Wall and what Qyburn is creating here. We don't know because we don't know exactly what Qyburn has done, but I think that they're probably different. And I think that in any event, as Carl said, it's slightly a moot point because I think that the Mountain will die before Qyburn. I don't think, there's a good chance we won't see Qyburn die at all. So I don't think that the way
this is so odd, me and you agreeing like this, Robert. Whoa.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, maybe we should throw in something we know we'll disagree about, like Jon Snow.
Oh, get out of here. He'll just trigger me like Talmascadan about Sansa, man.
Well, Jon Snow, it's only because he's clearly not a leader and he's not going to be king.
This is about Qyburn. We're not going there.
Okay, guys, sorry, I never miss a trick to try and wind up Kyle. And because we work together for a while, we know what each other's triggers are. But another super chat from Storm's End, $20. Thank you so much. No question.
Storm donated earlier on my stream like 50 too. Like, Storm, thank you so much. We really appreciate that.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. It really does mean a huge amount, and it allows us to do things like with getting Kyle off to Con of Thrones, and for me launching teasing again, my new project that I'm going to be launching. This definitely will help with that. So thank you for that. I think we'll probably wrap up in about 15 minutes, guys. So Kyle. Just a few more thoughts now about where Qyburn might be going. Can you sort of map out for us what your best idea is of this last kind of battle? You said so the mountain's going to get lots of people attacking him. Is Qyburn, like I think, just going to slink out, or do you think he's going to go out in a sort of with a bit more of a bang?
I think if he slinks out, we're not going to see him again, because that's a George thing to do. And I think the idea of this man who knows these types of things, because I think that most magic is going to be gone. Like you're talking about how all the dragons are going to die. I agree with that. I think all the direwolves will be gone. You think all magic will be gone. So that means John and people who have been affected by magic will be gone as well. So I think that scenario is likely. If Qyburn is to slink out, I don't think we're going to see him again, like some sort of conclusion with him, because he's not that type of character that we're invested in, like seeing his like end result. You know what I mean? So I think that what we will see is for show purposes anyways, there will be some of the Golden Company with Cersei. Maybe Cleganebowl will go down, and Mountain may die, and Qyburn may just peace out thereafter. He knows that Cersei is toast. I mean, if Brienne, Arya, Jaime, a combination of those people are together and are going to get ready to deal with Cersei, it's possible that he doesn't make it out, and like someone like Arya catches him or something like that. That could be something that happens, but I don't know. I just have this good feeling that he's gonna slide his way out of stuff. But if he doesn't, I see someone like Arya or Brienne, maybe someone righteous who doesn't agree with abusing the laws of nature in the way he is. Will deal with him. Brienne, Davos, those types of characters that don't like these unlawful things happening.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I see it, anyways.
No, I think I'd agree with you, and I think that I'm still of the view that he will slink out. I think this is exactly how I can almost picture it in like the penultimate episode or last episode or whatever, when you get this massive battle going on with the mountain facing up against the Hound and Arya or whoever, and just this cut shot to Qyburn drinking it all in, realizing that the Red Keeper's fallen and Cersei's about to go and Mountain's about to go, and him just going. That was very much like one of his parallel characters being Varys, very much like Varys when he just stopped when he was there and he looked and he saw that the bells were ringing. He realized what had happened and he just made a decision like that. He's gone. And I think that Qyburn is like that. He will make a decision quickly and say, right, that's it. I'm out of here. And I think that will be the last we'll see of him.
I saw an interesting point in the chat that I thought we should bring up as well. Another scenario, though I think it's unlikely, is that someone said, Rob, I think it's something monkey in chat. Robert Strong becomes conscious. I don't know if that'll necessarily happen because he's decomposed and deteriorated in a way where I don't think that's possible anymore. But him going kind of like berserk mode or something like that could be possible. And that would be interesting. I just don't see that happening. I just think that he's in the same mode as how we see whites and fire whites and stuff like that. He's being controlled or at least programmed.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't think that he's I don't think he'll suddenly go, oh, I'm me again, and then I'll go and attack the person who reanimated me. I don't.
You kept me alive, kind of. I'm gonna kill you.
That doesn't really work for me. Tycat sent a super chat. Thank you so much, Tycat. Qyburn is a necromancer. The ways we were shown resurrection is through faith, through magic, and through science. Yeah, I think this is one of those things where we could get into sort of semantics about words, about whether he's a necromancer, is he using magic or is he using science. I think the end result is the same in my view, is that he is using the tools that others are accessing through different ways. The world of Planetos, the world of Ice and Fire, is a world in which magic exists, but he is not seeing it as this kind of thing that's linked to faith. He's not seeing it as this kind of thing that's linked to some kind of airy fairy tree magic or whatever it is. He's seeing it as something that he can break down and understand, and he can if he does X, then Y happens. So that he is taking it from a scientific approach. Now it will look like magic because it is sort of magical, because that's the way that the world works, but it's not he would probably not view himself as a necromancer. I think he would view himself as a scientist, but other people might well view him as a necromancer, if that makes sense. Carl, did that make sense to you?
Yeah, Qyburn's a really interesting character. I compared him to Littlefinger and Varys. He's kind of got some of Melisandre in him too, in the fact that he thinks what he's doing is this right thing, this moral thing, right? Because and Qyburn is like, even though we think he's one way, he is kind of like a chameleon. He kind of like adapts to his situations the best he can, and that's what makes him really interesting. But I don't necessarily like his reasoning is definitely warped, man, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So guys, I'm going to start wrapping it up now. But Carl, if you want to have a quick flick through and just see if there's a couple of questions in the chat. I'm going to start rounding up about Qyburn, what I think that we're saying. So Qyburn is the reason why he's slightly enigmatic is that we don't know all of his background, but he is fundamentally, he views himself as a scientist. He views himself as somebody who is trying to understand how the world works, and he's got a particular passion and understanding about what lingers of life after death. So that is what he's trying to do, and he's using his skills and abilities to get himself, and he used them to get himself to a position where he could continue his studies that he had to leave off at the Citadel. And so he is, in his mind, using Cersei to get what he needs, which is the resources, the space, and frankly the live and dead bodies coming to him that he can use in order to continue his studies. Creating the zombie mountain is just the start for him. I think there's going to be more of that coming up. And fundamentally, he is not loyal to Cersei, so we should not expect him to be there standing guard over her at the very end. I think we could expect him to be looking after himself at the very end, because his only loyalty fundamentally is to himself. It's not to a house. It's not to any other particular people. It's only to him and the work that he's trying to do. And for that reason, if he gets the opportunity, I think, and Kyle, I think you're in broad agreement on this, he try to make an escape and just leave everything behind. Kyle, were there any interesting questions or comments in the chat?
One that really stood out to me, Robert. Sean McPherson, could Qyburn find out how to kill the Night King? Now, this is interesting because you just talked about his loyalty to Cersei. We don't think he's not loyal to anyone but himself. And if there is some sort of situation where, Cersei's endgame isn't the endgame in King's Landing, that's hard for me to believe. I think she's going to be around till the very end. She might even possibly be around after the Night King. Like, that's the thing for me, and that's hard for me to kind of get away from that. So could Qyburn somehow end up working with the other side, because he did have that interest, and it didn't seem like he was particularly biased towards them because he was aligned with Cersei. I think if it came down to it, he would become that chameleon again and adapt with them, maybe perhaps even help them. That's a really interesting question. And he certainly, because of his interest in this science, in what's going on, he could have a better understanding than most, because he has done and accomplished something that most others haven't. We know, Thoros, claims it's the magic of the Red God, and Melisandre is, you know, it is what it is there, but Qyburn is completely different, and I could see an interesting scenario, although it's unlikely for that would be cool, I think.
Yeah, I agree that, and this adds, you sort of referenced it there, adds in another potential ending for him, which is that he does try to ingratiate himself with somebody else. If he thinks that Cersei's reign is doomed, he may try to ingratiate himself with somebody else, which is where the link to Marwyn in the books comes, because if Marwyn is in Daenerys' inner circle, then he might see that as a way in. In terms of the Qyburn finding out how to kill the Night King, now, on the show we saw him with the arm of a white, and obviously he's learnt about reanimating human bodies. They are a very different thing to the White Walkers, to the others, who were created certainly in the show by the Children of the Forest a long time ago, and so yes, he's probably intellectually capable of figuring it out, but I think he would need to study them, because what is going on there is not what is happening with the whites that he's been producing, he's seen elsewhere, which is capturing what lingers after death and reanimating it. What's happened with the others is that they have created an entirely new species, an entirely new mode of being, as it were. And so, yes, I think that he is intellectually capable of doing it, but he has not yet had a chance to study it. So I think that, to my mind, he probably is not the person with the answers. The person more likely to come up with the answers is someone like Bran or Sam. Yeah.
I was going to say this, Robert. His style of learning is different than the other people. He's an observer, and that's how he absorbs knowledge that way. I'm very much someone that has to, like, I apply I'm a kinesthetic learner. If people know what that means, you know, we got auditory, kinesthetic, we got visual. I think, Tyrion is very much a doer. He's learned from experience. You know, Samwell is just someone that's naturally intellectual. He's always been drawn towards books and whatnot. So I think Qyburn is more of that observer type, and I don't want to say that he's not capable of gaining knowledge from reading books and stuff like that, but just the base of his character, I feel like he's more that type of character, comparable, like, to a Bran who's kind of like in tune with nature. He's ascended to like this, Buddhist master type of level where he's able to interact with the different levels of consciousness, as opposed to like Samuel, who's like, getting the actual information from books. So it's for me that's what's interesting too. He's an observer, right? So him observing the White Walkers, I'm agreeing with you, Robert. I don't necessarily know if he could figure out how to beat the White Walkers without a White Walker, as opposed to someone like Sam or Tyrion, who are like, pretty on their feet about these kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you expressed that a lot more clearly than I did. He is very much, the way he seems to learn is with his experiments. That's what he needs. He doesn't, when he's asking Cersei for resources, he's not saying, right, I need this book, that book, and the other one. He's saying, I need these bodies so that I can do some research on them. So that's how he works. Okay, guys, I think I'm going to wrap this one up now. There has been a really good chat. We picked out a few comments there, but there have been so many amazing comments coming through. So thank you so much for that. Kyle, do you want to just remind people what your channel is and why people should go over there?
Yeah, so, I've taken a little bit of extra time off lately. I had to deal with a couple of health issues. I'm feeling great, though, so thank you for all the support there. But mainly, I've just been focusing on the live stream lately. I've been doing some Season 8 stuff. I'm doing a big change with the channel in about a month from now after Con of Thrones. I'm going to be doing bigger videos instead of the smaller ones. My videos usually average around 7 to 9 minutes, but a lot of you have been asking and saying, Kyle, we really want you to express yourself more, with Norse mythology and your interest in Greek mythology, and the things that interest me, that interest George R. R. Martin as well. You know, the influences within the Song of Ice and Fire from Roman myth or Celtic myth, or you know, the stories of King Arthur, Merlin, all that kind of stuff. I love doing comparative analysis. So and then you know, kind of trying to find that link to a certain theory or characters, you know, where they're going to be headed towards the end game. That's kind of the stuff that interests me. So I'm going to be doing way more Norse mythology stuff coming forward, but you know, for the immediate future, podcast tomorrow, and then Con of Thrones. After that, it's all going to be you know, some, you know, more of the historical type of research that I love to do. I'm going to focus more of that on the channel, a little bit less on the season 8 stuff.
Fantastic. And guys, I would highly recommend you do go and check out Carl's channel. So the Con of Thrones videos that he did last time were really fun, really good. It did make you feel like you were part of what was going on there. So I can't be there, so I will definitely be watching his videos. As for my channel, I said earlier in the stream, if you're a Westworld fan, please do come and join me for my pre-show live stream on Sunday, every Sunday before the episode, 5 p.m. Eastern time. And if you're a patron, please do have a check out at some point in the next week. There will be my latest narration from the Winds of Winter preview chapters. And incidentally, if you're at all interested in supporting in Deep Geek, supporting the channel, or you want to get access to all of the additional audio content that I provide over on Patreon, please do go and check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/indeepgeek. That would be absolutely fantastic. But guys, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for the super chats in particular. That's incredibly generous of you all. Thank you for the great chat. I really enjoyed it. Thank you to Kyle. And guys, I shall see you again for another Game of Thrones live stream, probably this time next week. So you take care. See you soon.